You asked about how Australians experience nature, and the first thing that came to me was I was doing a deep ecology weekend with John Seed, where we go deep into our ecological awareness. And we stood on the balcony, it had been raining, there were trees right close to the balcony, building on the edge of a hill, and so the trees were right there in our face. And we just did a meditation of just letting ourselves breathe and watching it. And we'd been reminded that we breathe out carbon dioxide and the trees breathe it in and put out oxygen. And they were right close to us, and it was feeling the breath going in for the trees and for us, and how interconnected we were so personally and deeply. Not just abstract, we breathe and science stuff. It was so intimate. And when you asked about how Australians experience nature, we're all doing it every time we breathe, every one of us. So it's about our awareness of it and our value of it. I have someone that I started going to do nature therapy every Sunday afternoon. I was caring for my mum at the end of her life, her last years, and it was something to fill me up. And we drove not far from home, out a windy road to where there's hardly anyone lives. It's so peaceful and quiet, almost never hear a car. It's on a hill, the sun shines on it often. There's wallabies, kookaburras in the gum trees, some cattle, some chooks, some horses. I can see some mountains in the distance, there's a little valley with some creeks or rivers. And it's just so peaceful. But as soon as I arrive, I remember Ned bounding up the hill beside me. He's a dog, an orange dog, and he loves having sticks thrown and picking them up. But before he can even get to me, Georgie, the black and white dog, big one, just comes and puts his head in the window. I open the door, he tries to jump on my lap. He slobbers me all over my face, and I love the affection. I feel loved. I feel this joy in me being there. And I walk around to Tom, my nature therapist guy, and they come around with me and they just hang out with me. And I feel so loved, so welcomed, so accepted. And I'm struggling with the pain, the anxiety, the microaggressions, the hits every day from some in society about me being a transgender person, someone who's different. My joy is so great in being who I am, but it's really hard in many places. And so I'm carrying all of that pain and that anxiety and that struggle. And I go up there and I'm welcomed. It's neutral, as in the trees aren't actively doing anything for me personally, but it's neutral, and then it's active, of the dogs and the horses and other things coming to me, loving me, and they don't make any judgment, no ideologies, they just love and connect. And I feel like I belong, and I think, why can't humans be like the dogs? Why can't they be like the horses? I know who sometimes is more advanced. I love my nature therapy sessions. And I have lots of health conditions, and I can struggle to do even little things, and they're like Mount Everest. And I struggle and fight every day and push myself, and they still don't get done. But after I've had my time out in nature with a loving, caring human, and dogs and horses and all the other things, I just find, without even trying, the next day, lots of things just happen without me even trying, just from a couple of hours of beautiful nature therapy. It's very special to me. My mum and dad loved nature. They were married in a time where they didn't have a car, there wasn't much money. They went down to Wilson's Promontory in Victoria in a borrowed car and camped for a week, and that was their honeymoon. And they loved it, and they didn't feel deprived. They really loved nature. I was born in Benalla, and Mum and Dad took me back to the house where I was a baby just for a couple of months. And Mum showed me where she put me under the tree with the dappled light coming through the leaves in the afternoon. And I'd sleep there. And all my life, I didn't know about it, all my life, afternoon sleeps under dappled lighting just soothes me and calms me. And I knew that it began then. There's so many experiences in life, growing up in New Zealand in the country, all kinds of things in Australia and New Zealand, but the one I want to tell you is about when Mum was really old in the nursing home and Dad had passed. And she got to be just in a wheelchair, and I'd take her for walks outside. She loved the sun. She loved flowers, and there was a street in her old folks village that had so many gardens and flowers. And so I'd push her in the wheelchair, and it was like when I was with my nephews and nieces and spotting things and showing them. It was like she was my little girl and I was her mum. And sometimes she'd have a child spirit, other times it was a elderly woman's spirit. But I would be looking for things that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise, and I'd show her the patterns in leaves and flowers, the little insects. We'd take ages just going down that road and finding it. And it was like she was my mum and I was her mum. She was my little girl, I was her little girl. A beautiful, intimate play that we had. But it was simple, it was easy, and often it was every day when we could go and discover so many different things. I also noticed that I was driving somewhere and I saw a white jacaranda. I've never seen one, so I took a photo and showed her. I was always taking pictures to show her things, being her eyes. But then it was like, would you like to go for a drive, and we'll go and find it. There's one tree in our town, two trees that just have the most massive autumn leaves. They're huge. And when they're in full colour in autumn, I'd take a picture and then I'd say, Mum, let's go for a drive and we'll see that. And so we go and have a look at it and see it in real life. There was a place that Mum and Dad used to go at Lake Macquarie in Toronto, a little dead-end street, and they'd park there and they might have a salad roll and chips and sit there and watch the lake and the boats and feel the breeze with the open windows and have a little sleep. And so I used to take them, and then when Dad was gone, from time to time I'd do that with Mum. And I might sleep or I might read or just sit there and give them that beautiful, beautiful, simple, cheap taste of nature. And there were other places Mum showed me where she and Dad used to go and find places to just have a little sleep in the sun, on back roads, on roads that didn't go anywhere else. And so I used to take Mum to those special places. And it was really special to see what it did to her and it did to me in calming my soul. And then a few doors up from my place, somebody just had a huge rose and flower garden. So I'd bring Mum home and we'd go with the walker up the street like she used to go walking. And when we got there, we'd look at it from the curb. And then one day the lady came out and invited us in. And I told her how much Mum loved flowers, and she said, anytime you come, you can walk through, you can pick some of them. And then there was another lady did the same, to bring some flowers into her room. She loved them, and that made a difference. Lots and lots and lots of little, simple, gentle things like she did. She and Dad did with us in my family when we were young. And I was able to do that with her in a really beautiful way.